The ocean is terrifying enough with what's alive down there right now. Giant squids that can rip you apart, box jellyfish that can kill you in minutes, sharks that occasionally mistake you for a seal and ruin your whole beach vacation. But here's the thing. What's lurking in the deep today? That's the kiddie pool compared to what used to be down there. We're talking about creatures so nightmarish, so absurdly over-engineered for murder, that evolution itself looked at them and said, okay, that's too much, and hit the delete button. Lucky for us, these things are extinct. Unlucky for literally everything else that had the misfortune of swimming during their era. So buckle up, because we're about to meet the ocean's most horrifying has-beens, the creatures that make modern great whites look like goldfish. Keep watching, because number 3 on this list had teeth the size of your forearm. Let's start with something that sounds made up but absolutely was not. Dunkleosteus torelli. Try saying that 5 times fast. Actually, don't. This thing doesn't deserve the respect of proper pronunciation. This armored nightmare patrolled the oceans about 360 million years ago during the late Devonian period, which was apparently when Mother Nature was experimenting with horror movie designs. Picture this. You're a fish, just vibing in the Devonian seas, maybe looking for some plankton, living your best prehistoric life. Then you see it. A 30-foot-long submarine made of bone and rage heading straight toward you. That's Dunkleosteus. And you're about to become a statistic. Here's where it gets wild. This thing didn't have teeth. Nope, it had something worse. Self-sharpening bone blades jutting out of its mouth that could bite down with 8,000 pounds of force per square inch. For context, that's stronger than a great white shark, stronger than a hyena, stronger than basically anything alive today that isn't a saltwater crocodile, having a really bad day. Those bone blades? They never stopped growing. Never dulled. Every time Dunkleosteus chomped down on some poor creature, the edges ground against each other and got sharper. It was like having a built-in knife sharpener in your face. Evolution saw sharks getting teeth and said that's cute, but what if we made it worse? And this thing was fast. Not just fast for its size. Fast period. Scientists estimate it could open its jaws in 1/50th of a second, creating a vacuum that would suck prey directly into its mouth. You couldn't even see it coming. 1 second you're swimming, the next second you're inside the ocean's personal garbage disposal. The really fun part? Dunkleosteus couldn't digest bones, so after it crushed and swallowed its prey whole, it would just vomit up the skeleton later. The ocean floor during the late Devonian was probably just covered in regurgitated fish bones. Lovely. But at least Dunkleosteus stayed in the ocean. Our next contestant decided to blur the lines a bit. Megalania. Now technically, Megalania was a land creature, a giant monitor lizard that went extinct only about 50,000 years ago, which in geological terms is basically yesterday. But here's the kicker. This thing was a fantastic swimmer, and it loved hanging out in coastal areas. So if you thought the ocean was safe from 18-foot-long venomous lizards, think again. Imagine a Komodo dragon. Give it venom that could drop a water buffalo, and make it fast enough to chase down kangaroos. That's Megalania. The Australian coastline's answer to the question, what if nightmares were real? This thing weighed around 1,300 pounds. That's a small car with scales and a mouthful of serrated teeth. And unlike Komodo dragons today, which are ambush predators that mostly wait around for prey to wander by, Megalania actively hunted. It would track prey for miles, swim between islands. Basically anywhere you could run, it could follow. The venom made it worse. Megalania had venom glands in its lower jaw that would inject anticoagulants into its prey. That means once it bit you, you wouldn't stop bleeding. It could just follow you around, waiting for you to get weaker and weaker until you collapsed. Then dinner time. Early humans in Australia had to deal with this thing. They had to worry about 18-foot venomous lizards swimming up to shore. And you think your morning commute is stressful? But let's get back to the proper ocean. Back to the deep. Back to where things get really disturbing. Helicoprion. This one's special because scientists couldn't figure out what it was for over a century. They kept finding these weird spiral fossils that looked like circular saw blades made of teeth. Just teeth arranged in a perfect spiral. And they had no idea where on the animal these things went. Some thought it was a nose saw. Some thought it was a tail. One guy suggested it was a defensive spine on the back. Everyone was wrong. Turns out it was in the mouth. As the lower jaw, a buzzsaw of death that spun around as the shark ate, pulling prey deeper into its throat, while simultaneously shredding it to pieces. Helicoprion lived about 290 million years ago, and grew to around 25 feet long. Not the biggest shark ever, but definitely the weirdest. As scientists call it, contained dozens of teeth arranged in a spiral that would rotate as the jaw closed. New teeth would grow at the back, and old teeth would move forward along the spiral. It never lost teeth. It just added them to the collection. Imagine being a prehistoric fish and seeing that thing coming at you. You don't even know what you're looking at. Is it a mouth? Is it a weapon? Is it some kind of sick joke? And then it's too late because you're being pulled into a rotating meat grinder that's attached to a shark. The really fun part is that scientists still aren't entirely sure how it ate. The leading theory is that it would bite down on soft-bodied prey like squid and use the tooth whorl to pull them into its mouth while cutting them apart. But some researchers think it might have used that spiral to hook onto prey and then violently shake its head, like a dog with a chew toy. Either way, not a fun time. Now let's talk about something that makes Helicoprion look downright reasonable. Leviathan, Melville. Named after the biblical Leviathan and Herman Melville, the guy who wrote Moby Dick. When scientists name something after two different legendary sea monsters, you know it's not going to be a cute dolphin. This was a sperm whale, but not like the ones we have today. Modern sperm whales are actually pretty chill. They eat squid. They mind their business. They occasionally inspire whaling novels. Leviathan. Leviathan ate other whales. This thing was 60 feet long and had the largest functional teeth ever found. We're talking teeth up to 14 inches long. That's longer than your forearm. And unlike modern sperm whales, which only have teeth on the lower jaw, Leviathan had them on both jaws, top and bottom, a double-decker nightmare sandwich. Scientists found Leviathan fossils in Peru in 2008, and the teeth told a story. These weren't designed for catching squid. These were designed for ripping chunks out of large prey, whales, seals, anything that was big enough to be worth the effort and unfortunate enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And here's where it gets really interesting. Leviathan lived during the same time period as Megalodon. Yeah. The two biggest predatory animals in ocean history were alive at the same time, probably competing for the same food sources. The ocean 10 million years ago was basically hosting a kaiju battle royale, and small fish were definitely not invited. Think about that ecosystem for a second. You've got 60-foot whales with foot-long teeth hunting other whales. You've got Megalodon cruising around being Megalodon, and somewhere in the middle are all the regular animals just trying not to die. The food chain wasn't a chain. It was a ladder where the bottom rungs were made of pure terror. But we haven't even gotten to the big one yet. The creature's so infamous, it needs no introduction. But I'm going to give it one anyway because that's literally the point of this video. Megalodon. The prehistoric shark so famous it has its own movie franchise, despite the fact that scientists keep trying to explain that it was not, in fact 90 feet long and capable of eating submarines. But what it actually was is still terrifying enough. Megalodon was a shark that lived between 23 million and 3.6 million years ago, growing to lengths of around 60 feet. That's twice the size of a modern great white. And unlike great whites, which can at least theoretically be scared away or fought off, Megalodon was an apex predator that feared nothing and ate everything. The bite force on this thing was somewhere between 24,000 and 40,000 pounds per square inch. Remember Dunkleosteus and its impressive 8,000 psi? Megalodon would look at that and laugh. Whale vertebrae with massive bite marks. Fossilized whale bones with teeth still embedded in them. This thing was taking down whales the size of buses. For breakfast. The hunting strategy was brutal but effective, immobilizing them before going in for the kill. It was smart enough to not just charge in and risk injury. It would strategically disable its prey, then take its time. Patient, methodical, absolutely merciless. But here's something that should keep you up at night. We're not entirely sure why Megalodon went extinct. The leading theory is that climate change during the Pliocene epoch caused its prey populations to migrate to colder waters where Megalodon couldn't follow. But that's just a theory. Another theory suggests that the rise of orcas, which are smaller but hunt in packs, outcompeted Megalodon for food sources. Either way, Something killed off the largest predatory shark that ever lived. And we're not 100% certain what. Sleep tight. Let's shift gears to something that definitely won't help you sleep any better. Kronosaurus. Not a shark. Not a whale. A pliosaur. Basically a marine reptile that looked like someone took a crocodile, stretched it out to 30 feet, gave it flippers instead of legs, and said, "Go wild." About 125 million years ago. And its name comes from Kronos, the Greek titan who ate his own children. Scientists don't name things after child-eating deities unless they're really trying to make a point. The skull alone was 9 feet long. 9 feet? That's taller than most people. And that skull was attached to a body built like a torpedo with the personality of a missile. This thing could swim at speeds up to 25 miles per hour, which doesn't sound that fast until you realize it's 30 feet long and weighs 4 tons and is heading directly toward you with a mouth that could swallow you whole. The teeth were conical, designed for gripping rather than cutting, because Kronosaurus didn't need to cut its prey into pieces. It would just grab you, shake you around until everything important inside you broke, and then swallow you like a python eating a rabbit. Except faster, and underwater, where you can't breathe. We found Kronosaurus stomach contents that include sea turtles, smaller plesiosaurs, and even other Kronosaurus. This thing was so dominant it occasionally ate members of its own species. Not out of necessity, not because food was scarce, just because it could. And the really fun part about pliosaurs like Kronosaurus is that they weren't fish. They were reptiles, which means they had to surface to breathe. So these things would be cruising along in the deep, then suddenly shoot up to the surface like a submarine launching a missile. Anything near the surface during that moment was in for a very bad time. But as terrifying as Kronosaurus was, it still had competition. The oceans during the Cretaceous period were basically hosting a battle royale of nightmare creatures. And nowhere was that more apparent than with our next contestant, Mosasaurus. If you watch Jurassic World, you've seen a dramatized version of this thing. And surprisingly, the movie didn't exaggerate that much. Mosasaurus was genuinely that big, that fast, and that horrifying. These marine reptiles grew up to 50 feet long and weighed around 15 tons. They had double-hinged jaws like modern snakes, which meant they could open their mouths wider than seems physically possible and swallow prey that was absurdly large. They found Mosasaurus fossils with stomach contents, including sea turtles, large fish, smaller mosasaurs, and even pterosaurs. This thing was eating flying reptiles. It would wait for them to dive down for fish, then grab them out of the air and pull them underwater. The teeth were recurved and serrated, designed to hold on to struggling prey. And unlike sharks, which constantly replaced their teeth, Mosasaurus' teeth would stay in place until they wore down or broke off. Which means these things had to be careful about what they bit. But judging by the fossils we found, they didn't seem too concerned. Mosasaurus ruled the oceans during the late Cretaceous period, right up until the asteroid hit and ruined everyone's day about 66 million years ago. And by ruled, I mean dominated. Apex predator doesn't quite cover it. Mosasaurus was at the top of the food chain, and everything else was on the menu. The swimming style was unique too. Unlike most marine reptiles, which use flippers to propel themselves, Mosasaurus swam like an eel, undulating its entire body and using its tail for thrust. This made it incredibly fast and maneuverable. It could turn on a dime, accelerate rapidly, and change direction without warning. Your best bet was to be somewhere else already. So here's where we are. We've covered armored fish with bone guillotines for mouths, venomous lizards that hunted along coastlines, sharks with circular saw jaws, whales that ate other whales, the biggest shark that ever lived, reptiles the size of school buses with jaws that could crush bone, and sea monsters that ate flying dinosaurs for fun. And the crazy part, all of these things are gone, dead, extinct, never coming back. The ocean today, as dangerous as it is actually the safest it's been in hundreds of millions of years. The creatures swimming around right now are the ones that survived. The reasonable ones. The ones that didn't get so over-specialized or so dependent on specific prey that they couldn't adapt when things changed. But here's something to think about. As you drift off to sleep tonight, the ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface. The deepest parts of the ocean are so remote, so unexplored, that we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the Mariana Trench. So yeah, Megalodon is extinct. Probably. Almost certainly. The scientific consensus is extremely confident. But every few years, someone catches something on camera in the deep ocean that makes scientists scratch their heads. Something that shouldn't exist. Something that was supposed to be extinct. The coelacanth was supposed to be extinct for 66 million years. Then in 1938, someone caught one off the coast of South Africa. Oops. The ocean keeps secrets. And it keeps them well. Sweet dreams.